Oh look, a 40-minute Nintendo Direct. I probably don't need to record my reaction. I doubt they're gonna show anything noteworthy.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I guess they just decided to announce an HD remaster collection of one of my favorite JRPGs of all time with zero warning. Etrian Odyssey. I know I've barely put out any videos, but the next video I was planning on making was literally about this series and its future now that the DS is no longer being supported. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I decided not to record my reaction to this direct because I've actually recorded my last couple reactions to the previous Game Awards and other directs, but they all turned out to be me just sitting and kind of silently watching things that I didn't really care about. So when this direct came up, I just assumed it'd be more of the same, but I guess I couldn't have been more wrong. They gave us more information on the Splatoon 3 DLC, they even looked into Raincoat a little bit, which I'm personally really looking forward to. They shadow dropped Metroid Prime Remastered. I'm not the biggest Metroid guy, but even I can acknowledge that is insane, and also gives people something to chew on before Metroid Prime 4 comes out in, 29 years. And they also started adding characters in the Mario Kart DLC. I mean, there's so much to chew on. This direct, honestly, even if it was just one thing, I feel like this direct had something for everybody. And that one thing for me, the thing at the very top, was Etrian Odyssey Origins Collection. Since I didn't record my reaction, here's an accurate representation of what it probably sounded like.
There it is! 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 Oh my god! Yeah! 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 Yeah!
Okay, where do I start? My brain is just absolute mush after this direct, but I just have to gush about this one particular announcement because if I don't, I will explode. Okay. Etrian Odyssey. To those who are unfamiliar, which is probably a lot of people, simply put, it's a dungeon crawler JRPG made by Atlus. While accurate, that cheap description hardly does justice for what an incredible series this is. Now, just to pull the curtain back a little bit, originally when I was jotting down notes for this video, I wanted to kind of talk about all the individual gameplay elements and aspects of Etrian Odyssey to explain how it works and why I like it so much to begin with before even talking about this announcement and all that, but that turned out to be a 9-page script. So I'm not going to put you guys through that, so instead here's a quick SparkNotes version and then I can get to what I want to talk about. Etrian Odyssey is a super cool JRPG. To start off, you have this little guild of 5 people, you pick from all these different classes, they all got these different sprites, beautiful art, they're drawn super nice, you can pick from several different, male and female characters, though they're not even specifically stated with which gender they are, so you can have a lot of freedom of how you design them and stuff. Future installments even let you change the color palette, or even fully customize the color. Even later installments let you choose their voices, so you have a lot of choice on how you design them, and then you give them names, so you can name them after whatever you want, your OC, your pets, your friends, whoever you want, and then you pretty much go on your adventure, and it kind of plays out like a one-player D&D session, because while there is sort of a loose narrative, you have a goal, you start in a town, you want to go on this journey, there's some sort of thing happening, each game has a slightly different story, but you go and you do your thing, it's super fun, but the story is very limited, it's very sparse. There's characters to keep the narrative going, but it's not like you're constantly hearing voice acting and hitting plot points and stuff. It's mostly combat, and the thing is the gameplay is fun enough as is. So what about the gameplay? It's a dungeon crawler, so you go through these dungeons and it's all grid-based. So you move around on these spaces, and then after a certain number of turns, you'll end up in a random encounter, though it's not entirely random because there's a little meter in the corner that tells you when you can expect a random encounter to happen, and if you watched my Pokemon video, you know that I said I support random encounters, and it may even be thanks to this game, because they prove that random encounters can actually be exciting when it feels like there's this impending doom of a battle about to spring up on you. I don't know, I kinda like that. But anyway, in addition to that, you have a map on the original DS. On the touchscreen, there would be a map, and you would draw with the stylus. Because as a touchscreen, you play on the top screen, showing the place you're walking around, and then on the bottom screen, you take the stylus, and you would put little icons, you draw floors and walls, and the entire thing is blank at first. It's completely empty. You're walking into the literal unknown, and it's up to you, as the explorer, to jot down points of interest and walls and rooms and doors and stairs and chests, and maybe there's something out of reach, but you can be like, oh wait, there's an item across this lake and I can't get there yet. I don't know how, but I'm gonna mark that it's there, so then you can come back to it later. And it's just really cool, and that is the main selling point and the thing that I think Etrian Odyssey is most known for, the cartography element. It's super cool, but then in addition to that, like I said, there's random encounters. So in the combat, Simply put, there's 3 types of physical attacks and 3 types of elemental attacks. And all of the enemies either have resistances or weaknesses to all of those types. It's sort of similar to the Shin Megami Tensei series and Persona and stuff, except, hot take, it's better because it doesn't have light and dark attacks. I just hate the light and dark attacks from the Shin Megami Tensei series. Like, who the hell thought that was a good idea? It's an instant kill attack. What do you mean it's weak or not? It kills you in 1 hit unless you reflect or absorb it. And it's so luck-based and doesn't even work on bosses, so why the hell would you bother using them? And if an enemy has one of those insta-kill moves, all you can do is pray it doesn't hit you. Or you can go full paranoia and take steps to defend yourself from those moves by using the proper personas or demons. But that's no way to live. No one should live like that. Under an RNG wheel of potential instant death, losing hours of gameplay because a dice block decided everyone should just drop dead because? No fucking thank you! If there was some game design decision behind this, I don't see it! Sorry, I think I just spaced out for like 30 seconds. What was I talking about? Oh, right, Etrian Odyssey. Yeah. So, yeah, physical attacks and elemental attacks, super cool. There's also ailments, you know, you got like your sleeps and your poisons and all that kind of stuff, you know, but like everyone and their mom has one of those. But what this game has, which I don't really think I've seen in many other games, or if any, it's got binding.
I like to bind, I like to be bound.
So you can bind enemies' heads, arms, and legs. And that's super cool because that can stop them from using certain moves. So if some enemy has like a psychic attack that they use, essentially you would assume from their mind, right? If you bind their head, that move is now locked. And the game doesn't really tell you which moves are assigned to what, so you kind of have to use your judgment. Like if it's a punch or if it's a tail swipe, you have to assume whether that's for their arms or their legs, and then you can bind them, and that's an extra part of this whole strategy. And then also in the battles, there's 2 lanes, so you have like a front lane and a back lane, so that decides like range, like who can hit whom in battle, and you know, who will be targeted first or whatever. You know, it's really cool. So there's like strategy upon strategy. A lot of, pretty much that's what all the combat comes down to. It's a lot of simple concepts all put together that you end up with this very complex sort of combat system. And it's really rewarding and it's super fun. And then there's also foes that roam the map, FOEs, which are these giant mini bosses which will actually move around. And every turn that passes in a regular battle is 1 turn that passes like in the overworld, meaning that if you get into a regular fight when there's a foe around, it can actually come up to you and join the battle and fuck your shit up. And it's great. And then when it comes to upgrading your characters, you can make armor and weapons, but the really cool thing about that is that you can have all the money in the world, but in order to get all those items, you need to actually harvest materials from the enemies. I feel like Monster Hunter does this sort of thing, so that's also present here, where depending what enemies you defeat, and in some cases how you defeat them, you can get particular items, and then you can use those to essentially craft new armors and weapons and all this stuff, and it's super cool. So then that gives you something to do when you're fighting. You can sort of hunt down certain enemies, and then you can actually bring them back to town, and it sort of plays into the whole role-playing experience where it feels like you're kind of like harvesting the remains of these enemies and bringing them back, and you're creating things from it, and that reinforces this gameplay loop that you've explored, and now you're stronger, so the next time you go in, you can go in even better, and you just make this progress. And then there's bosses, and then the town, the people, there's these NPCs, you know, someone gives you quests, another guy's the guild guy who helps you with recruiting your people, and then there's like this other guy with a dog, and then the art style, it's drawn so beautifully, and this music, oh my god, the music. Now the music is done by Yuzo Koshiro, and I swear to god, this dude has been dropping mad beats for every single Etrian Odyssey game. Like somebody called him fat in middle school once, and he made it his life's purpose to prove everybody how fucking based he is. And my god, he succeeds! I think I'm gonna leave it there in terms of explanations, because I think that just about covers everything, but part of me still feels like I didn't explain it properly. I think the best way to really get it is to actually just sit down and play one of the games for yourself. I could personally recommend Etrian Odyssey 4. It's pretty friendly to newcomers, and it's also the first game that I ever played. It's the one that got me into the series to begin with. There was a demo for it on the 3DS, so that made it super accessible, and I've heard that a lot of people started with the 4th game as well, because of how accessible it was compared to the previous installments. In addition to that, the first 3 games just kind of have a rougher go of it when you try and play them today. There's just a lot of general quality of life things that just don't really hold up anymore, For example, starting from the 4th game, they've reworked how the skill tree is portrayed. Rather, there is a skill tree. The first 3 games just have a list that you kind of just need to read and infer how all the abilities work together and which ones need to unlock the next consecutive ability. So it's really a headache and quite honestly a mess. And then of course, being on older hardware on the original DS as opposed to the 3DS, you know, the graphics and the audio, it all just kind of suffers in that regard. So now that they're being remastered, this might be a perfect place to start for newcomers to the series. Okay, so that's a good segue. I can finally get into this. This whole port, remaster, bundle situation. Etrian Odyssey, Origins, Collection, HD. I keep forgetting what the name is exactly. But yeah, this port, to me, is a super big deal. And I feel like I tried to give some context to this because I want to explain properly why this is such a big deal. Like I mentioned, it is a dungeon crawler that heavily relies on this whole map making element. That is the whole thing behind the game. Making this map, I mean, the whole map making thing is what sets it apart from all these other games. It's very unique to Etrian Odyssey and is a huge part of its identity, meaning that a lot of the game and the way it plays relies on that feature. I mean, let's say you're playing the game, right? You're playing it on, like, the GameCube, for instance. Let's say there was a GameCube version, or you're playing it on the Wii. You only have one screen. You would only have one screen at that time. So how does that work? Do you press a button to open up the map, and then you press another button to, like you know, that turns into this thing where it's like bringing up a menu. But the whole beauty of it is it sort of simulates this feeling on the DS as if you're walking, but at any point you can look down to the map in your hands and jot down a note. You can even walk while you do it. You know, it's just a really seamless game design thing, which is entirely thanks to the DS's design and the way it's built. So hardware of the device that you're playing this game on becomes super important. Fast forward to when the DS and 3DS were announced to pretty much not be supported anymore, and now at any day now, I haven't really kept up with it, but the eShop for the 3DS is going to close permanently for real. So at that point, this console is pretty much as good as dead. So without this console that this thing pretty much relied on and was born on, and then they're ending it, it's like, it really begs the question, how is it going to survive moving forward? I do remember reading an interview a while back where some of the developers said that they were not planning on giving up on Etrian Odyssey. They wanted to keep the series going. And while that made me very happy to hear, it didn't fully quell my fears about the future for it, because I still wondered, how do you do it without the DS? It is perfect hardware. There weren't even any games for it on the Wii U. Even that would have been perfect. The Wii U, when you kind of think about it, is sort of like a living room DS. The TV is the top screen, and the Wii U gamepad is the touch screen. That would have been perfect. But of course, I don't think I need to explain why making a game for the Wii U would have been a fairly pointless endeavor. But, yeah. So then that boat sailed, and now we have the Switch. And I'm looking at the Switch, and I'm like, well, it's one screen. And in my mind, sometimes I would confuse myself, and I would forget that it only shows up on the TV when it's docked, because I was trying to think of every option. I was like, well, maybe you could have it on the TV and then have it in your hands. But I'm like, no, that's not how it works. It's only on the TV or in your hand at once. You can't do both, because I'm like, there's a touch screen, but that's the one touch screen, you know? It's like, they combine both screens of the DS into one screen, and does that quite work? I'm not really sure, you know? And I've been thinking about this for a long time. For a long time, which is why it's so funny that they announced this now. Literally 2 days before this announcement happened, I was ranting to some of my friends about this for the first time. So the timing, for me, was absolutely insane, but I am here for it. But to make a long story short, I don't really have to try and come up with all these different ideas and could they work and, you know, pitch all these ideas to myself, because they showed us in the trailer. They show us in the trailer that the screen sort of splits in half. The map comes in so you can see your game on the left and you can see the map on the right. So it looks like that's how they solved the problem. I mean, obviously you would need to have the game and the map on the screen at once, but it's still interesting to see how they decide to go about it, because there must have been many conversations on deciding exactly how to go about this. You know, I mean, they had to completely redesign the entire real estate of what's happening on the screen. And it doesn't look too bad, and that's fine. But the thing that was still bothering me was, is it gonna feel good? Because the whole point of why it was so nice on the DS is that it was seamless. You didn't have to press a button or toggle something or open the thing. It was just always there. It was always present at your fingertips. At a moment's notice, just a simple thought pops in your head, ooh, I want to mark that wall. You could do it. There was no hesitation. There was no issue. There was no barrier to doing that. You could adjust the map in the middle of a battle. It was always convenient. I took a brief look at that part of the trailer because it's very quick, but it looks like a button shows up implying that to choose whether or not you're moving your character or adjusting the map, you sort of hold a button, and I think that's about the best they can do on just using a regular controller on a TV. However, it also looks like they've stated that you can use the touchscreen in handheld. So sort of like going back to the roots of playing it on the DS or 3DS, I feel like on the Switch, playing in handheld might be the definitive way to play this, because you can touch the screen and you can draw on the map. No button pressing necessary. You just draw on the touchscreen because the Switch has a touchscreen. Did anyone else feel like they forgot the Switch has a touchscreen? I feel like no games have utilized it in a meaningful way, and this game is going to depend on it in handheld. So, you know, nice to see the Switch getting some uses out of its features, unlike the infrared thing in the Joy-Cons. Guys, remember that? You remember that the Joy-Con has an infrared light reader, or that you can count marbles with the haptic reactive vibrations? My god, the Switch is chock full of so many features that didn't get used, because who's got the time to functionally code those features into their games? No one. People are on these tight deadlines. They're too busy abusing the devs. Who's got the time? Anyway. Now, of course, that's the cool thing about the Switch. You kind of have a choice of how you want to play. You want to play on the TV, you want to play handheld, want to play in your bed, on the toilet, in the park, on the roof, like in that trailer when they first announced the Switch. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. But the thing about Nintendo Directs is that they are Nintendo Directs. This is how they announced the game to the world. So they announced it's coming to the Switch. But then when I started doing a little digging online, and I looked at other posts and promotional images and all the different things coming up about it, I discovered a huge piece of information that was not made very clear during the Direct. And that is this little detail here. You see that little word, that little logo? Yeah, Steam. It's coming to Steam! Etrian Odyssey is coming to PC. Now, technically, if you're a little bit of a yar-har, I guess you could've pirated the old thing and played it on your personal computing device. But the fact that it's coming legally in a full designed package, you know, it's designed to work on PC. That's the really cool thing. So now it's like, I realized, screw the Switch, I'm getting this on PC. That's gonna be the coolest way to play it, in my personal opinion, because that means not only is it cool that I have it on PC, it also means that I can use mouse and keyboard. And I just think that's gonna be a great way to play. You've got your directional keys, keyboard controls, and you got the mouse. You can click and drag on the mouse. It's like painting in Microsoft Paint, but it's the Etrian Odyssey map. It's like, I don't even know if I came up with that idea. I don't think it ever occurred to me that the game could come to PC. I don't even think I thought about that hypothetically. So hearing that it was coming to Steam was just a wish come true. So I wanted to go and confirm it. Really just make sure someone didn't make an edited image, or I wasn't getting pranked. You know, I wanted to make sure it was real. I wanted to see it. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to smell it. And I go to the store, and I knew there was a bundle. That's this whole thing. It's 3 games, it's a bundle. But I go to Steam, and that's when I first saw the price. Now at this point, if you've heard anybody say anything about this bundle, you've probably heard that the price is 80 smackaroos, 80 US dollars. That's a lot for a game. I mean, we're living in a time now where they're trying to push the retail price for video games to 70 bucks. I mean, 70 bucks, come on, 70 bucks. Ah, gross. Ew, get it away. I don't like it. That's too much. And now you got Etrian Odyssey for 80. So what do I think about that? This is a weird sort of thing, and I think if you think it's a ripoff, that's valid. If you think that's a bargain, that's also valid. This is sort of a weird subjective mental exercise sort of thing in my opinion, because it's a little bit complicated. And I kind of just want to dive into my thoughts on the pricing. So to start off, DS games originally sold for 40 bucks. So 40 plus 40 plus 40 if we were just reselling them for the same price back then as now, that would be $120, meaning the $80 is essentially you're getting one game free with the bundle. That's why it's a bundle. That's the discount. It's a buy two, get one free, and it's a hot bargain, a sweet deal. But you're still paying $80 for games that are hella old. So is it worth it? My personal opinion is a strained yes. Because it's a lot. It is a lot of money. No matter how you cut it, that's a lot of money for 3 old games. But number one, they are remastered. They're not just clicking and dragging them to the new console. And I know porting in itself takes a lot of work, and they also went to the trouble to kind of clean it up and make everything very nice looking. Because Lord knows, the original games were super crunchy. They did make it nice, you know? So they put the work in, they went through all 3 of the games, but at the end of the day, it is 3 older DS games. So a bundle for $80 just sounds really steep. I feel like even just the clean 60 would have been fair, because you would assume, oh, a full retail price for this sweet bundle, right? That sounds fair too. But yeah, I don't know. It's when I look at it, you are buying essentially those 3 games for their original prices while getting one free. And the one thing that I feel like lets them get away with this is something that I didn't even realize, and maybe it's something I should have been more aware of, considering I technically have all 3 of those original DS games mint in package, because I just never got around to playing them. I always played up the sequels rather than the original 3. But if you try and find these games online, you have to get them from resellers. And yeah, those prices are pretty high. I mean, you're looking at like $200 for one of those games. But it kind of becomes a really twisted lens of looking at it through, doesn't it? I mean, is the company really going to decide what the price of the game should be relative to these resellers? I mean, that's just people looking for a quick buck, you know? They made the game, they can decide what it's worth, and I guess they think it's worth a lot. But then at the same time, I'm a sucker because I think they're worth a lot too, but I still don't like paying $80 for this bundle. I feel like that's about as much as I could say about the price without talking in circles and circles and circles, because you can pretty much make arguments for and against it all day, but I do think it's a little bit weird. I haven't personally decided whether or not I'm going to buy it at full price, or if I'm going to try and hold back and get it on sale before getting around to playing these. One of the incentives to pre-order the game that they've announced are these nifty little character portraits featuring some of the other characters from Persona and Shin Megami Tensei and all these other Atlus games. That's a super cool thing that at first, when I saw the image for it, I just saw it randomly on Twitter. I thought that was a fan edit. I thought that was just some sort of... Because honestly, it doesn't look real. It's like, why would these characters be in the game? I thought that was really weird, but no, that's a real thing. And you get that DLC as part of the bundle if you pre-order. Now, I personally like some of the characters that they've included, but I feel like it sort of goes against what the series is for me. You know, like I mentioned, I kind of see it like a one-player D&D session. You know, I sort of like to role-play what my characters think in certain situations. Like if there's a text-based event, like, oh, there's this fruit, who's gonna eat it? I'm like, well, this one troublemaker on my team would probably be the one to call dibs, so that would be him. You know, you sort of like come up with these characters, and that's part of the fun. A lot of the fun when you play the game is in your own head. You kind of fill in the gaps that the game provides for you, and that's not out of laziness of the game, it's just, that's how it is. You spend so much time going through these dungeons, it's just fun to imagine the little details and just the sort of nuance behind it all. So I don't see myself playing as Mr. Persona Man in the middle of my crew. That just, you know, I can see a lot of people liking that. I mean, it's an Atlus property, so you have all this sort of Atlus Smash Brothers moment when everyone's in one place, but I'm personally not that crazy about it, so I'm not even sure if I'm gonna pre-order it. I might just wait for it to go on sale, considering the price. Of course, everyone's free to do what they want, you know, all the more power to you. I'm not gonna be one of those people telling you not to buy a game. So anyway, like I said, I wanted to make this video a long time ago because I really want to rack my brain and just kind of figure out the hypotheticals of how could this series continue to exist? You know, what does the future for Etrian Odyssey look like? And right before I got the chance, they announced it anyway, so I guess there's really no need to. But I feel like the question isn't entirely answered. answered. Because after all, this is just remakes. These are HD remakes. This isn't a new game. So I was thinking about that, and I feel like not only was this a very deliberate action, I feel like this was very smart, and I just feel like it makes a lot of sense. So this is where I kind of start to dip my toes into speculation territory, but I feel like there's a few reasons why they specifically ported the first 3 games the way they did instead of making a new installment. Now the first reason is obviously porting a game, even doing an HD remaster, is a lot less work than making a brand new installment. You know, new levels, enemies, characters, music, the whole shebang. Obviously it's easier if you already have the whole roadmap laid before you. All you gotta do is kind of just like dust it off, make it work with the new hardware and any of the other work that has to go with it, but it's ultimately a lot less work and time than making the whole game. And ultimately, it allowed them to ship 3 games at once as opposed to making 1 game. Secondly, I feel like this argument pretty much applies to any game sale ever, but I feel like this is also part of them trying to gauge interest. They want to see how many people are going to buy Etrian Odyssey on the Switch. You know, is it going to sell? And for both our sakes, I hope it does, because I want this series to continue. You know, this is a really fun JRPG series. I feel like a lot of JRPGs become samey, you know? You're a group of people, you go on a quest and you fight the big villain at the end and then it ends. And I mean no disrespect to other JRPGs. I mean, I've played a ton and they're super fun, but Etrian Odyssey is just so unique and it feels like it's the only one that does what it does exactly. So when Etrian Odyssey goes, it all goes. Third reason, I feel like they were borderline willing to use these 3 games as a sacrifice, as sort of a test. They're kind of fucking around and finding out. You know, they have this new system. They're like, we no longer have a second screen, but we still need to have our map on the screen too. So how do we do that? So they're able to sell these games with this new implementation. And as it ships, they can start to see fan reactions. They can see what people think about it, you know, and just how it generally plays. They can get a sort of reaction or give themselves more time to figure it out and really polish it for the next full game. So when Etrian Odyssey 6 comes out, even though isn't Etrian Odyssey Nexus the 6th one, so are they going to jump to 7, or is Nexus just kind of going to be considered 5.5? Because there was a game after the 5th one, but it was Nexus, so would the next one be 6? It doesn't matter. Whatever they decide to call it, the next mainline original game, they will have a very clear idea, I think, of exactly how to approach it. Maybe they'll do it the same exact way like they did these remakes, or maybe they'll even adjust it even more, because they have done that in the past. They'll take the next installment and they'll sort of tweak one thing here, add a feature there, you know, constantly evolve the franchise. So maybe just the task of bringing this franchise to new hardware, and multiple new hardwares at that rate, because there's PC and Switch. So I feel like even that alone, it's like they're adopting this new future for the Etrian Odyssey series, and now they're saying, okay, this isn't for the DS anymore. Now we need to worry about making it for Switch and making it for PC. And also, weird timing, because I feel like it was a good idea for them to also stick to PC, assuming they're going to keep putting games on PC, and this isn't just a one-time thing, which I think will be a little bit weird. But I think the Switch is getting some gray hairs. You know, I think it may be on the way out, and they don't want to tell us that. I think we're getting pretty close. I don't know if it's like this is the last year of the Switch, but if not, we are getting pretty close. So they're also going to have to start making games for whichever console comes next, because they're probably already working on it right now as we speak. Like I said, speculation. That's a lot more speculation and a whole different can of worms. But I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say about this. I had so much more I would have said before this announcement came out, but I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. And maybe also, if you've just stumbled across this video and you, for whatever reason, have stayed here until the end, thanks by the way. I hope maybe I've convinced you to try this series, and maybe my sort of advocation for this game will inspire you to try it, because I really, really recommend it. It's really good. If you're looking for something to play, try Etrian Odyssey. Of course, it hasn't come out, so I can't 100% recommend this new bundle, but assuming they do a good job on it, I think this is an amazing place to start. And while you're still here, I really never wanted to do this, and I feel a little gross doing it. It's really not even that big a deal. But if you're even marginally interested in anything I'm doing here or these videos, or maybe you just believe in me and you feel like I'm capable of great things and you want to see what I do next, it'd be really cool if you subscribed, because I know this channel doesn't really have anything of substance right now. It's pretty sparse, but I am trying to really get into the swing of things, and I want to put more videos and content on this channel. I don't want to say too much because it's still very much a sort of blue sky phase in my mind, so I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do, but if you're curious to see, I would love it if you subscribed, because I do want to put more on here, and I'm super excited to do it, and I want to share this stuff with everybody, and the more people looking at it, the more worth it feels, because, you know, I want to do cool stuff, and I want people to see it, and it's gonna be fun, and you can leave your comments, and you can tell me, wow, that video was really bad, never do that again, and I'll be like, good insight, I'll take note of that. Or you can say, that was really cool, next time you should do this, and I'll be like, yes, I will do that, that's a good idea. But honestly though, that would really mean a lot to me, and if you do have things that you would like to hear about, or things that interest you, I'd love to hear it. Or what are your thoughts on Etrian Odyssey? Have you never played the games and now you're considering it? Or are you a longtime fan? Do you have a dog? What's his name? Whatever it is, leave it in the comments. Any actual conscious human being who finds my videos, I just want to know what's on your mind. I would legitimately love to hear it. I'm not even talking about algorithm stuff. I don't care about the algorithm. If I cared about the algorithm, I wouldn't have sworn in the video. I would actually make this video as soon as the announcement came out and not have waited several days to post it. You know, I'm here to have fun. And I hope you are too, and I'd love to see you stick around. So anyway, I don't know how to end this, so I guess I'll just say have a great day and enjoy your video games. I hope you enjoyed the Direct. Did you enjoy the Direct? It was really cool. It was really cool, right? I thought it was super cool. The Direct was super cool. I mean, okay, so the Mario Kart stuff, I mean, they're adding Birdo now. I mean, so like out of nowhere, this is the fourth wave. 4 waves in, and now they're talking about adding